All right, the logic of action, how we reason about doing. So, have you ever really stopped to think about what's happening when you make a choice? I mean, really think about it? Well, today we're going to dive into this super cool and powerful framework that was built to answer that exact question. Just think about the last thing you did. Maybe you decided to grab a coffee, or you shot off an email. Or maybe it was as simple as just saying hi to someone. It feels simple, right? But underneath it all, what's the actual structure of that choice? What are you actually doing when you do something? So, to get to the bottom of that question, some really smart people came up with this framework called the logic of action. And what it does is pretty amazing. It takes this messy, kind of fuzzy, everyday idea of just doing something, and it gives us a way to look at it with the same kind of precision you'd find in, like, math or physics. It's about getting serious about choice.
Now, what's really interesting is that this whole thing didn't start in some tech lab. Nope, its roots are deep in philosophy. You've got thinkers just wrestling with one of the biggest questions out there. What does it actually mean to act?
A huge breakthrough came from this idea called sees-to-it theory. And yeah, that sounds kind of technical, but all it stands for is sees-to-it that. The core idea is simple. An action is all about its outcome. So when you flip a light switch, you see to it that the room is now lit. It's that simple. You've just actively picked one version of reality, the one with the light on. And by doing that, you've completely gotten rid of the other one, the dark room. Okay, so this is where it gets really visual. I love this. Think about it like one of those old choose-your-own-adventure books. Right now, at this exact moment, you're on a single page. But ahead of you, there's this massive tree of branching paths, all the different pages you could turn to. Your choice, your action, is you picking one of those paths. And when you do that, you're literally pruning away all the other branches. Poof, they're gone. You make one future real, and all those other possibilities just vanish. So you have this incredibly elegant model for choice. And it was just too good, too powerful to stay locked up in philosophy books. It started to leak out, and people realized it was the perfect tool for understanding all sorts of actions, not just, flipping a switch, but the actions we take with our words and, you guessed it, eventually with computer code. Get this, when you talk, you're not just making noise, you're doing things. Linguists have a great name for this, speech acts. If you promise to do something, that's called a commissive act. If you ask someone for help, that's a directive. Even just saying, I'm sorry, is an expressive act. Every single one is you trying to see to it that the world changes, even just a little bit. Okay, so we've jumped from philosophy to linguistics, but what's really wild is that this exact same pattern shows up again, maybe even more powerfully, when we get into computer science. I mean, the very same logical structure we use to think about a human making a choice is absolutely essential for understanding what a computer program is doing. How cool is that? This thing is called a Hoare triple, and it's basically the bedrock of making sure computer programs work right. The analogy here with a recipe is just perfect. The precondition is, okay, you have all your ingredients ready to go. The statement is the actual step, add the eggs. And the postcondition is what's true after you've done it. Now you have a bowl with eggs mixed in. This structure, this isn't just a nice idea. It lets computer scientists prove, like with math, that a piece of code is going to do exactly what you think it's going to do. No guesswork. All right, and all of this, from philosophy to code, it's all been leading here to the most powerful, most modern application of this whole idea. How the logic of action is literally the foundation for artificial intelligence. So, if you want to build a truly smart AI, you first have to crack a massive puzzle called the frame problem. And on the surface, it sounds almost silly, but trust me, it's insanely hard. It's this. After an AI does something, how does it know what didn't change? I mean, think about it. You pick up your keys. You know the color of the walls didn't change, right? And the sun didn't just disappear. But a computer, it has to be told that. You can't just program a list of everything in the universe that stays the same after every action. That's literally impossible. So, the solution isn't to list everything that doesn't happen. No way. The real solution is you have to build in a system for reasoning about actions and their consequences. The AI needs its own internal logic of action to make sense of the world. And one of the absolute best ways to do this is something called the Belief, Desire, Intention model, or BDI for short. It's basically the logic of action put into practice. It works like this. The AI has beliefs about the world. That's its map of reality. It has desires. Those are its goals, its destination. And then, based on its beliefs and desires, it forms intentions. That's the specific route it commits to taking. That's the whole ballgame. That's how an AI actually decides what to do next. So let's just take a step back. What have we really seen here? We've followed this one really powerful idea. this logic of how actions work, all the way from a deep philosophical question to the absolute core of the technology that's shaping our world.
And that right there, that's the big takeaway. The logic of action is like the invisible operating system, the hidden grammar, running underneath every autonomous system out there. It's the blueprint that tells a self-driving car how to choose a lane, that lets a robot decide to pick up a box, that guides a smart assistant in figuring out what to say next. It's the fundamental theory of doing.
And that leaves us with one last, and maybe one of the most important questions. We are literally building machines that can choose. They use a formal logic that we designed. So as these AIs start acting more and more on their own, who is responsible when they make the wrong choice? When they see to it that the wrong future becomes our reality?